Yes.
which is key, in my opinion. He talked about funds that is going to be allocated and made available to support SMEs. And this is something that I would say has been consistent with this current minister. Ever since he took office, he's been trying to focus a lot more on the SME subsector. And, that is extremely important because the SME subsector is really where you find the average Ghanaian playing. Most Ghanaians will not play with the big banks and all that. And so you need to have a way that a system in place that supports the ordinary person. And I'm sure you've heard that we hear very positive news about the macro fundamentals being robust, etc. And yet people say that we don't find this translating into the everyday lives of people. And that's why it's important that you look at areas that can have direct impact. And so if we, as a country, want to put some resources to support micro, small enterprises, we need to do that. But let's also be interested in supporting sectors that have growth potential, that has a tendency to recruit a bit more people, to impact on the livelihoods of people. So that was one of them. I think also giving us a lot more detail about the issues of our debt restructuring with our external creditors, for me, was critical. It gives us a better, it's no longer bits and pieces of what we've been reading in the news. But now he, as our representative who has been leading this chart or this course, is telling us, and we can read in black and white, what exactly we are getting as a way of all of these negotiations. And I think for me, I've heard the president talk about setting a fund to divert some of these resources in there. Basically, these are not monies that are sitting down. These are monies would have been paid, which we are getting some relief. And what it means is that it grants us some level of fiscal space to be able to invest in other areas that are beneficial to the economy. And I think that we should all have a conversation, and I believe the minister should, through his economic dialogue series, have a conversation to see which are the critical areas that we can put some of these gains to, so that the average person can benefit from the gains we are making as a country. So in detail, there are quite a number of issues in there. I don't have them offhand, but if you talk about them, I can comment on them appropriately.
Right. I mean, one of the other notable things is, the various cost-cutting measures that were announced. The government obviously wanted the mid-year budget review to reflect the times that we are in. And so, is it a step in the right direction, all of those measures that were announced?
Absolutely. I mean, any government that makes effort to cut down expenditure is commendable, except that under the current dispensation that we find ourselves in, it is extremely important to, as we say, cut our food according to our sizes. And we, as a country, are being monitored closely because of our engagement with the IMF. And if government has found some areas that it can cut costs, I think we commend the minister and leadership. But like we always say, we need to dig a bit deeper and see where else can we cut costs so that we'll be able to really reduce. I'm sure if I recall, about 7 billion plus has been cut by way of expenditure cut. That is good. But I'm not too sure where these expenditure cuts are, because you dare not go cut expenditure around wages and compensations. You would throw the economy into a disarray. But I'm sure there are other areas that they found needful to cut. I haven't been able to read that part of. But I believe strongly that we should commend the minister, but also encourage them to look a bit deeper. And that is why I think, for example, the economic dialogue series which was held last month was critical, or early this month, where we can all think through and profess areas we think the government should look at. I think one of the areas which also is critical is our property rate system, which for many years in this country we've not been able to properly figure a way of rolling this out. I think 2 years ago or last year, I think GRA was commissioned to take over that process. It hit a rock along the way, and it is not doing too well. I've seen the minister make comments in his media budget review that is going to be looked at again and rolled out. I mean, we don't want things to be in the pipeline any longer. We want the action. And so I think that there should, if it means, in my opinion, if it means giving this purely to a private entity to run and make sure that we are actually getting the needed revenue from the property rate system, it is better to have a 60% or 50% stake of 2 billion, which you are sure you will get 1 billion, than to have zero. And so for me, I wouldn't shy away at all in introducing the conversation, can the private sector, a PPP arrangement be looked at when it comes to property rate system? Because over the years, government has not been able to move to get it. And I think it also talks about putting in sanctions for government agencies who do not follow the established norms and laws in how they go about expenditure issues. I think that is critical, especially in this year of being an election year. We ought to make sure that no single entity, no ministry, MMTA, takes the gains we have made for granted. We need to be able to make sure that we actually getting the best, and we need to make sure that we consolidate what we have to be able to build on it. Otherwise, we will have to come back after election to start all over again, and that is not the kind of country we want to build.
Very well, Doc. We'll have to leave that conversation here, but I'm so grateful, Dr. Ayerakwa, that you've spoken to us here on the Morning Star.
Thank you.
You just heard us speak to Dr. Hayford Ayerakwa. He is an economist at the University of Ghana, speaking to us this morning, giving us a bit of reaction to the budget statement that was presented yesterday by the finance minister. There's still more to come here on the Morning Star. The Horizon is coming up next. Stay tuned.
Everyone is running to build. Enjoy the peace of mind.